Welcome to Military Comebacks. Tonight, I want to share a story that will reach deep inside you. It's a story about respect, courage, and the quiet fire that burns within people the world often overlooks. Stay with me until the end, because what unfolded on one rainy night will make you believe in destiny, discipline, and honor. The rain poured relentlessly over Virginia Beach that evening. Streetlights flickered through the downpour, casting golden reflections across the slick asphalt. Inside a small roadside diner, a young woman sat alone in a corner booth. Her hoodie was damp, her hair pulled back tight, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. To anyone passing by, she was just another woman finishing a cup of coffee after a long day. Her name was Sarah Matthews. What no one could see behind those calm blue eyes was a life most would never imagine. Sarah was a Navy SEAL, one of the very few women ever to earn that sacred badge. For 12 years, she had lived in the shadows of war, carrying out missions that would never make the news. She had leapt from helicopters into pitch-black oceans, crawled through scorching deserts to rescue soldiers left behind, and carried both the flag on her shoulder and scars on her soul. That night, though, she wasn't a warrior. She was simply a tired woman searching for silence. The diner was nearly empty. A couple whispered by the window. Old man slowly stirred his soup at the counter. A jukebox hummed a soft country song. For the first time in weeks, Sarah felt something close to peace. Then the door burst open. 3 men staggered in from the rain, loud, drunk, and fueled by the kind of confidence that grows from cheap liquor in smaller minds. They shouted at the waiter and laughed at jokes only they found funny. The smallest of the 3 noticed Sarah sitting alone. He nudged his friend and smirked. "Look at that, sitting all by herself. Maybe she's waiting for company?" Sarah ignored them. She was trained to remain calm. But their laughter grew louder. The tallest man, wearing a worn leather jacket, walked toward her table and leaned in. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, grinning. "You look lonely. Let us keep you company." Sarah slowly lifted her gaze. Her voice was quiet but unshakable. "Please walk away." He laughed and glanced back at his friends. "Walk away? Come on, I'm just being friendly." She sighed and turned her eyes toward the window. The rain outside sounded gentler than his voice. "Sir," she said evenly, "you don't want to do this." That only fueled his anger. "Do what?" he snapped. Before anyone could react, he swung his elbow hard, striking her across the face. The diner fell silent. The old man's spoon clattered to the floor. The couple froze in place. The only sound left was the rain beating against the windows. Sarah's head turned with the impact. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of her lip. She remained still for 3 seconds. Then she looked up. Her eyes were no longer tired. They were sharp, cold, and steady, the eyes of someone who had faced death and walked away from it. Before the man could even blink, Sarah stood, her right hand locked around his wrist. Her left foot shifted slightly. In one clean, controlled motion, she twisted his arm behind his back and slammed him face first onto the table. His friends jumped up instantly. One rushed forward and threw a punch. Sarah ducked. His fist smashed into the wall. She drove a kick into his knee, and he collapsed with a cry. The third man charged at her. Sarah grabbed a nearby chair and swung it sideways, knocking him flat onto the floor. It was over in 10 seconds. The men lay groaning on the ground. The waiter stood frozen, clutching his notepad like a shield. The old man whispered, "Lord have mercy." Sarah stepped back. Her breathing was calm. Her face returned to stillness. "Oh, it's over," she said quietly. The manager rushed out from the kitchen. "What happened here?" he demanded. Sarah pointed calmly at the men on the floor. They made a mistake. Police arrived minutes later. Witnesses explained everything. When the officers asked for Sarah's ID and saw the SEAL insignia, disbelief crossed their faces. One officer straightened immediately and offered a salute. "Ma'am," he said softly, "thank you for your service." Sarah declined to press charges. She just wanted to leave. As she stepped back into the rain, one officer whispered, You really are a legend, aren't you?" She didn't answer. She only offered a faint smile and disappeared into the night. By morning, the story had spread across the naval base. Some called her a hero. Others said she should have taught those men a harsher lesson. Sarah didn't care. She had learned long ago that victory isn't about breaking bones. It's about maintaining control. 2 days later, the man who had struck her appeared at the base gate. He looked sober, ashamed. His wrist was wrapped in a bandage. He waited in the rain for hours until Sarah finally emerged. He approached slowly. "Ma'am," he said, his voice trembling, "I came to apologize. I was drunk. I was stupid. I didn't know who you were." Sarah studied him in silence. "You don't need to apologize to a Navy SEAL," she said. "You need to apologize to the woman you hurt." Tears filled his eyes. "I know, and I will. I just needed you to know I'll never forget what you said. You were right." Sarah nodded once and turned to leave. Then she paused. "Next time you see someone who looks quiet or small," she said softly, "remember they might be stronger than you can imagine." "Yes, ma'am," he replied, lowering his head. Months passed. Sarah was assigned to a new unit for a short training cycle before retirement. Her team respected her completely. Yet at night, when others slept, she sat alone with memories of Afghanistan. She remembered the ambush that took Lieutenant James Cole, her teammate, her brother. Before he died, he had told her, "Matthews, promise me one thing. When you go home, don't fight every battle. Some wars end when you choose peace." Those words lived inside her. Maybe that was why she hadn't destroyed those men completely. She had chosen peace. After retirement, Sarah moved to a quiet coastal town and opened a small gym for veterans and young recruits. She taught discipline, self-control, and respect. She never spoke of her medals. She never mentioned the night in the diner, but sometimes, walking along the shore at dawn, she whispered her team's call sign into the wind. One morning, she found an envelope in her mailbox with no return address. Inside was a carefully written letter. "Dear Sarah, you may not remember me, but I will never forget you. I was the man who hit you that night. Since then, I've changed my life. I stopped drinking. I joined a program to help veterans with PTSD. You showed me what true strength really looks like. Thank you for saving me in more ways than one. Respectfully, Daniel Red." Sarah read the letter 3 times. She sat on her porch, staring at the horizon as the morning sun broke through the clouds. A gentle breeze brushed her face. For the first time in years, she felt peace not born from discipline, but from forgiveness. "Maybe this was the mission I was meant for," she whispered.
Ow.
That evening, she visited the memorial wall by the beach. She placed her hand on Cole's name. "You were right," she said softly. "Some wars end when you choose peace." Years passed. One day, a young girl walked into Sarah's gym. She was shy, holding a photo of her father in uniform. "My dad was a SEAL," she said quietly. "He died overseas. I want to be like him." Sarah looked at the photo. It was Lieutenant Cole. Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. "Then you already are," she said. "You have his courage." From that day on, Sarah trained the girl like her own daughter. Together, they ran along the beach at sunrise and saluted the waves at dusk. Sarah had found purpose again, not just surviving, but shaping the future. One night, standing by the shore beneath the moonlight, Sarah reflected on her journey, the missions, the scars, the diner, the letter. She realized her life had never been about fighting enemies. It had always been about fighting for humanity, respect, and honor. She closed her eyes and whispered for all of them. For peace. The waves carried her words into the dark. So my friends, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Military Comebacks. Here we share the stories the world must never forget, stories of courage, respect, and the truth that real strength isn't about power, it's about character.